In the news this week, election campaigns on as Labor Liberal prepares for final showdown.
Plus, Aussies travelling to Bali willing to take health risks without vaccination.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Lung and Daniel Stanislav.
Good evening. The election is in full swing as Labor and Liberal kick off their campaign launch on the same day. But with expectations that Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull would take part, he has remained absent from the Liberal Party event. Reporter Nelson Liu has more on this. Good evening, Nelson.
Yes, Ivan, good evening. Premier Colin Barnett and opposition leader Mark McGowan has faced rousing supporters at their party campaign launches to boost support for the top job. Mr Barnett has pointed to a success during government, claiming the party has made the right decisions. While Mark McGowan says WA jobs is a priority, while making pledges including keeping Western Power from privatisation, while criticising the Liberal Party over broken promises.
Western Australia for the last 8 years has had a stable and effective government.
There is nothing more Labor than standing up for jobs, standing up for opportunity so every Western Australian, no matter where they're from, has the chance to succeed.
But while Mr McGowan says Labor is fighting for a fresh approach to WA, the Liberals have made the campaign against Labor personal after a controversial week involving its preference deal with One Nation.
Can any Western Australian afford another 4 years of Colin Barnett?
This election is game on. And you watch McGowan sweat over the next 20 odd days. He'll be dripping by the end of it.
Mark McGowan will now be facing a tougher battle in the fight for Premier, with both he and Colin Barnett neck to neck according to current polls, with 3 weeks to go until polling day. Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
Travellers to Bali are warned about the dangers of not being insured or vaccinated before the trip, with hundreds of Aussies having either been ill or hospitalised during the stay. A new study is underway in an attempt to understand why so many travellers are willing to take the risk. Cassandra Elliott reports.
50% of people who travel to Bali report some sort of stomach upset like Bali belly. Here in WA, Bali is our most frequent travel destination, but research shows when it comes to our health, we aren't seeking travel advice before we go.
My 2 granddaughters have recently returned from Bali, and about a week later they came down with the gastro.
Did you have any vaccinations or anything before you left?
No.
Were you concerned about getting sick on your way over there?
No, not really.
Over a period of 12 months, 59 Aussies have died in Bali, with 121 falling ill or being hospitalised. So why are we so willing to risk our health for a holiday? The Health Minister says any warnings issued are to be taken seriously.
If people get seriously ill overseas, they can either end up dying or very seriously ill, being cared for in conditions that are nowhere like we provide in Western Australia.
Eric Lee from Osworld Travels says there are a few things every traveller needs to do before they head overseas, like registering with Smart Traveller and getting health insurance in case of an emergency.
Travel insurance is a must, highly recommended because often you might not know what's happening after during the trip.
A study is being conducted into the behaviour of travellers to uncover why we risk our health when travelling. The results from this first-of-a-kind study are expected to be released earlier next year. Cassandra Elliott, WAMN News.
The issue of mental health is back in the spotlight after a recent increase in youth suicide rates due to economic downturn and job uncertainty. Although there are a number of support programs available now for young people to access when things get hard, the government responded saying any youth suicide is a concern.
We wanted to put the focus on mental health issues and particularly drive down rates of suicide and harm related to those mental health conditions that people live with on a daily basis.
If you or anyone you know are experiencing mental health issues, call Lifeline on 131114.
Labor promised that if they win the election, they will rehabilitate the Row 8 site, which has already been cleared for construction. The opposition leader says it's something that clearly has to happen. Local residents who are against the highway construction responded positively after the government was forced to release the business case under the Freedom of Information Act.
We already have a day planned, Mother's Day, to actually start that revegetation process, and a lot of members are already growing plants, have collected seeds, so we're ready to really take this on and to make this the most beautiful corridor.
The uprising of micro-parties may mean state parliament will be fractured after the state election. The newly formed Flux Party has launched their campaign by putting 25 candidates in both upper and lower house. Flux is aiming to engage voters in government decision-making through smartphone apps to increase transparency.
Our particular form of democracy is called issue-based direct democracy, where instead of everyone having a say on every single issue that goes before Parliament, people have the opportunity to delegate on issues they don't care about and delegate to specialists and professionals and people who are real experts in that particular field to make decisions on their behalf.
The White House denied that the US government will mobilise National Guards to arrest illegal immigrants. A spokesperson has strongly denied a story from the Associated Press, describing it as 100% false. The agency claimed that they have received an 11-page document showing suggestions that National Guards should be used in the southern state to search for illegal immigrants. However, only state governors are allowed to mobilise National Guards.
And finally this week, the memorable Slip, Slop, Slap campaign added shade to the motto a few years ago in recognition of the harsh Australian sun. Southridge Park in Pearsall is set to get a $30,000 sunshade if the Liberals are re-elected.
The one thing that people did want was the shade sails, so the $30,000 will give shade sails over the equipment standing behind us, and we'll be able to have a safer, cancer-aware environment for our young kids.
They also promised $500,000 worth of upgrades to the Wanneroo District Netball Association.
Funding like this helps go a long way. It means that we're not relying on the mums and dads to start putting more money into their pockets to help us fundraise in that regards.
And those are the top stories you need to know this week.
We have more news on our website and Facebook. See you next week.
See ya.